a recipe protected for over a century, locked inside a vault in Atlanta, believed to be known by only a handful of people on Earth. We're told it's the magic behind the world's most popular soft drink. But the real origin of Coca-Cola isn't a story of refreshment or Americana. It's a story about the shadows of the Civil War, a morphine addiction, and a desperate search for a substitute that almost no one knows about. To understand what Coca-Cola actually is, you have to forget the red trucks and the polar bears. You have to go back to a wounded soldier, a failing pharmacy, and a French wine that was advertised as a brain tonic. Because the drink that would become the symbol of capitalist optimism was born from the depths of physical pain and chemical dependency. In 1886, most people thought Coca-Cola was just another patent medicine, a pick-me-up, a temperance drink for a changing South. The narrative sold to the public was simple. A local pharmacist, John Pemberton, mixed up a syrup in a three-legged brass pot in his backyard, took it to Jacob's Pharmacy, and they sold it for 5 cents a glass. It was delicious, it was refreshing, and it contained a secret ingredient, a mysterious merchandise 7X, that made it special. That's the story on the museum plaques. That's the story that feels safe. But it leaves out the one detail that actually explains everything. It sanitizes the desperation, and it completely ignores the first ingredient in the name, the Coca. Because to understand Coca-Cola, you have to ask a very uncomfortable question. Why was a pharmacist in Atlanta, Georgia, so determined to create a drink that contained coca leaves in the first place? What was he trying to cure? And the answer takes us not to a pharmacy, but to a battlefield. John Pemberton was not a simple soda jerk. He was a man of science, a morphine addict, and a casualty of the Civil War. During the Battle of Columbus, Pemberton was wounded by a saber slash to the chest. It was a brutal injury, and like tens of thousands of soldiers on both sides, he was given the standard treatment for pain, morphine. The Civil War created a generation of addicts. It was called soldier's disease, and Pemberton had it bad. By the time the war ended, he was trapped. He was a respected chemist and a morphine addict, and he knew that if he wanted to survive, he had to find a way out. He needed a substitute, something that could give him relief without the needle. And that's where the curiosity really begins. Because Pemberton wasn't just looking for any substitute. He was looking for the most coveted substitute in the medical world at the time, a non-addictive form of pain relief. And the entire scientific community was looking in one specific direction: the coca leaf. In the 1860s and 70s, European scientists were buzzing about coca. They weren't talking about recreational abuse. They were talking about it as a miracle cure. The great French chemist, Angelo Mariani, had created a hugely popular product called Vin Mariani Bordeaux wine, infused with coca leaves. It was endorsed by popes and presidents. It was seen as a performance enhancer, a mood lifter, and a cure for everything from depression to fatigue. Pemberton was watching Mariani closely. He was a competitor, and he knew that alcohol was a problem. The temperance movement was gaining power in the South. People wanted the lift of Mariani's wine, but they wanted it without the sin of alcohol. So Pemberton created his own version. He called it Pemberton's French Wine Coca. It was his first hit, and it was essentially a direct copy of the French formula, marketed as the most remarkable invigorator of the brain and sexual organs. But then, disaster struck. In 1885, Fulton County, where Atlanta is located, passed prohibition laws. Pemberton's cash cow was suddenly illegal. He was broke, addicted, and watching his business evaporate. He was a man running out of time, running out of money, and running out of options. This is where the origin story shifts. This is the moment most history books skip. Because it wasn't ambition that created Coca-Cola. It was panic. Pemberton needed to reformulate. He needed to remove the alcohol but keep the magic. He needed to create a temperance drink that still gave people the hit they craved from the French wine Coca. So he went back to the lab. He doubled down on the Coca. He extracted the cocaine from the leaf. He added the cola nut, which contained caffeine, and he mixed it with a heavy dose of sugar. But here's the detail that changes everything. Pemberton wasn't just selling a soda. He was selling his own medicine. He was the perfect test subject. He was creating a drink that he, as a morphine addict, could use to wean himself off the needle. The cocaine and caffeine combination gave him the energy and the mood lift he needed to function without the sedative effects of morphine. Coca-Cola, at its core, was a drug replacement therapy. And when he took the jug of syrup to Jacob's Pharmacy on the 8th of May, 1886, and they mixed it with carbonated water by accident, that wasn't the genius moment. That was just the delivery system. The genius was in the formula itself. It was a perfectly balanced, psychoactive cocktail designed to keep a wounded Civil War veteran functional. For the first few years, it worked. Pemberton claimed it cured his morphine habit, and the public loved it. They loved the brain tonic effect. They didn't know they were drinking a refined version of a morphine substitute. They just knew it made them feel good. But the tension was only just beginning, because the man who owned the company didn't own himself. By 1888, Pemberton was dying. The very addiction he had tried to escape, combined with stomach cancer, was consuming him. And he was terrified, not of death, but of what would happen to his formula. He was broke. He owed money to everyone. And circling him like sharks were the men who would become the titans of the New South. One of them was Asa Candler. Candler was a sharp, ruthless businessman who saw the potential in Pemberton's syrup. He didn't see a medicine, he saw a brand. And he knew Pemberton was weak. He began quietly buying up the rights to the formula. He acquired shares from Pemberton's partners. He did it piece by piece, often for pennies on the dollar. Pemberton, sick and desperate, sold his remaining interest to Candler for a paltry sum around $1,750. He held on to a tiny sliver for his son, Charlie, but within months, Candler would even swindle that away, lying to Charlie about the paperwork. In August 1888, John Pemberton died. He was broke, addicted, and forgotten by the very industry he helped create. His funeral was small. His obituaries barely mentioned the drink. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Asa Candler now owned the formula, but he owned a secret he didn't know what to do with. The drink contained cocaine, and by the 1890s, the public perception of cocaine was shifting. It was no longer the medical miracle of the 1880s. It was becoming associated with crime, with violence, particularly with fear-mongering stories about African American men in the South. Racist propaganda linked cocaine to Negro cocaine fiends, creating a moral panic. Candler was a businessman. He wasn't a scientist. He didn't care about the purity of Pemberton's vision. He cared about selling bottles. And he realized he had a ticking time bomb. If the public found out that their favorite soft drink contained the same drug now being demonized in the press, the company was finished. So he did something remarkable. He didn't remove the cocaine immediately. He couldn't. The name was Coca-Cola. You couldn't have Coca without the Coca. Instead, he started a massive, behind-the-scenes operation to change the sourcing. He contracted with a pharmaceutical company in New York to get decoconized coca leaves. It was a new process, a chemical wash that stripped the cocaine out while leaving the flavor of the leaf. He also doubled down on the caffeine from the cola nut. By 1903, the transition was complete. Coca-Cola no longer contained a significant amount of cocaine, but they never advertised this fact. They didn't want people to know it was ever there. They quietly changed the formula, and they've been guarding that secret ever since. But here's the part that feels like a ghost story. Even today, Coca-Cola still imports tons of coca leaves into the United States every year. They are the only legal importer of coca leaf for non-medical purposes. They get them from a special processing plant in New Jersey, run by a company that has a special arrangement with the DEA. Why? If the cocaine is removed, why do they still need the leaf? Officially, it's for flavor. They claim the coca leaf, even without the alkaloid, provides a unique taste that can't be replicated. But for decades, there have been persistent rumors that the merchandise 7X, part of the formula, the flavoring oil mix, is separate from the coca leaf processing. The coca leaf isn't for flavor. It's for something else. The reality is less sinister and more bureaucratic. The Stepan Company, which processes the leaves, extracts the cocaine and sells it to Mallinckrodt, a pharmaceutical company, which then uses it to make medical cocaine, a Schedule II drug used as a local anesthetic for surgeries. The decocainized leaves are then sold to Coca-Cola, so the origin still echoes. The drink born from a morphine addict's desire to self-medicate now sits at the center of the only legal, FDA-approved cocaine trade in America. It's a legal loophole that has existed for over a century, directly traceable to John Pemberton's original formula. Asa Candler's genius wasn't just in marketing, it was in obfuscation. He took a product with a dark, addictive origin and rebranded it as the ultimate symbol of purity, the drink of Sunday school picnics and wholesome American families. He buried the story of the wounded soldier so deep that even today, when you look at the vault in Atlanta, you don't think of morphine addiction. You don't think of the racist panic of the 1890s. You don't think of the DEA permits. You just think of a cold, refreshing bottle. And that is the greatest trick the company ever pulled. They didn't just hide a formula. They hid the context. They hid the pain. They hid the fact that the most famous soft drink in history is, at its molecular root, a pharmaceutical relic of the Civil War. The question is, when you take a sip, are you tasting the secret blend of oils? Or are you tasting the ghost of a soldier trying to survive? The vault door is closed. The formula is safe. But the origin is still out there, floating in every can, if you know what to look for. And it's a reminder that sometimes, the things we consume most innocently were born from the most desperate circumstances imaginable.